Good morning. Good morning. Stand over here. So this morning, we're going to talk a little bit about the lab rotation in our session. And some of you, I saw some hands go up that you were somewhat familiar with the models. And so the definition that you probably have seen of the lab rotation is that students physically move from their classroom to a lab. However, for you all, we're going to modify that a little bit. So because all of your students will have one-to-one devices, so we're going to modify that for in-classroom. And so we're going to really talk about how we're going to use the computers as a part of your direct instruction as well. So we'll do that, and then we're going to identify a couple of tools that you're going to be able to actually see and use, and then we're going to help you set up your own accounts in these couple of tools that we're going to use. So it's going to be really hands-on, and when you leave, you'll have like some real specific tools and how to use with your lab rotation.
Perfect. So that's a little overview on the lab rotation model, all right? The important thing here about the lab rotation is, as Cassandra said, this is I don't want to say an easier model, but many teachers use it as a transitional model because it's one that involves either kids are on the computer or they're with you, right? And it's one or the other. And so it allows for a little bit easier of a rotation than some of the other ones, because again, it's just either on or they're off, okay? All right, so now I want to bring up Rochelle, who's going to talk with us a little bit about the classroom rotation model. You guys remember seeing Mission Dolores' video yesterday? This is what they use. She's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Like you said, you saw my classroom doing the classroom rotation where we break the kids up into groups. They're deliberate groups. And they have a time in each, basically, station. And when the time is up, they move in a rotation to the next station. We're going to go over the different classroom rotations that we've explored at our school, when it's best to use them. And then we're going to really dive deep into that 3-group rotation and talk about, the different things you can do with the teacher, what you'll want to do in the computers, and really, really dive deep into that dreaded project learning, that independent center that I think we're all kind of nervous about. So we'll really talk about those types of projects that you can do there. After that, we will then go through a rotation. So we will actually, in our group, practice that rotational model as well. This model
is one that as we mentioned earlier, what you're going to do today, really get a feel for what it means for both your experience as a learner to be able to learn in different settings. And that's one of the big benefits of the classroom rotation is that students actually have a chance to learn in different modalities in one classroom, in one classroom session, all right? But it does require a little bit more coordination from your part of how you think about and plan those sessions, yeah? All right, now, the third model that we're going to talk about, I'm going to bring up Ms. Catlin Tucker, is our flipped classroom.
Hi, everyone. So the flipped classroom model is really where you're taking the transfer of knowledge or information, which has classically happened via lecture or perhaps reading something out of a textbook, and you're shifting that online. And the idea is that if you shift lecture online, let's say with a video, then students are watching that or consuming whatever the information is at their own pace. So if I record a video describing a concept or doing a little mini lesson for them, they can pause the video, they can rewind it, they can watch it a couple of times. If I say something they don't understand, they can pause and look up a word. And so they're able to really digest that information at their own pace. Then the practice phase of learning, which has traditionally been assigned for homework, right? We use the classroom to give them information. Then they go home and we ask them to do something to try to apply that information, maybe a set of problems, or they're going to do a piece of writing. And instead, you move that application phase of learning into the classroom, because it's during that phase of learning where kids often trip, They fall, they struggle, they need support, and that way they have the subject area expert, which is obviously you all, and then their classmates for support. So it's kind of this inversion of how we've traditionally taught. And this definitely, probably for the older grades, would be a really attractive model for some teachers to experiment with. Although I do know elementary teachers who have done the flip model and kind of incorporated it into the rotation kind of feel as well, where kids have a rotation where they go to and they watch a video as in a small group where they can still pause and self-pace. So just keep that in mind as you're deciding what might be the best fit for you and your students and your learning objectives.
Chooses one model and then stay with that model for one semester, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Or is it like the school decision that everybody's going to have the same model?
I would definitely encourage the teachers from the lower levels of the elementary school to go to the classroom rotation session and then maybe to the lab rotation session. Because flipped classroom, I don't know if it's going to be, your students are going to be there yet. And then for high school teachers and maybe the upper level of elementary, the upper level elementary could choose between the classroom rotation and the lab rotation, and then high school between flipped classroom and lab rotation. That's my recommendation, but it's up to you. That's how I see it.
And one thing is that always, I don't know if we mentioned this because I was coordinating some things, but one thing that you have to bear in mind is that these are the entry point models, that some levels are better that you do the entry level with like rotations or lab rotations, but as you go, you start basically shifting, you start doing some changes based on the realities of your classrooms, and what we want you to do is basically make your classroom your own, as long as there's rigor and as long as it is to actually improve the blended learning experience, then you start basically adjusting and adapting. So that's very important.
And the other question right there, the other point that I want to make on this is kind of extending on what Jaime just said. When you choose a certain model, it doesn't mean that that's what you have to do every single day. Because there might be some lessons, some kind of activities that might be better one day for a certain model or another day a different model. But we do want you to at least go in with a very clear plan and vision so you're not, kind of just shooting from the hip and trying to make stuff up every single day also. But it's all about you getting better and better and more proficient. The other point I want to make, and then we have a question right there, is think about where your classrooms are today. So how many folks are already doing some sort of like station or workshop today? By show of hands, a few? Okay, that's great. So those classrooms are probably more ready to go into a classroom rotation, right? Now, if today your classroom is mostly in a whole group, then make sure you're thinking about the leap between going from a whole group to rotation maybe, but also then introducing digital tools. So really keep in mind not trying to take on too much too quickly from where you are right now, all right? Our goal is for you to really set yourselves up for success, and that means being, the word we always use is incremental, right? All right, question over here.
I don't have a question. You just said what I was going to say. I have read that in mathematics, you could use, depending the objectives and what you want to do with the students. And also, another thing I read was that you have to change because the kids get bored from the same. And it's up to the teacher to make the program, not the administration, because you are with the kids, you know what they need.
Absolutely, and that's one of the benefits is that you actually do have a chance to create more modalities in any given session. All right, one or two more questions?
I'm going to give you an example about Maria Jose. Since our kids, and this is very important, our kids are going to have computers with them, that some of them are going to take them home. And even the ones that they're not going to take them home, parents have computers, most of them in their homes. Let's say Maria Jose teaches third grade math, to say an example, and might have a classroom rotation or a lab rotation, but Maria Jose will choose to do kind of like a flipped classroom also. For example, this year, she sent pre-work videos to students this year for them to prepare for division that they were going to do the next day. So that do not circumscribe only to just what you're going to do in your classroom. Maybe you can use some models to do homework or to prepare for next day.